Happy New Year, my friend. Hope you and yours are doing well. Shouts to all of the people in Bowie's Creek. What did I call it last time? Queek? I think I screwed that up completely. Hope everything is well in your world, man. Let's just start with, just your thoughts, because I know we've talked a lot about Bryce, especially with the last game. Does the last game that he played in a game that Atlanta needed to win, does that enhance everybody's opinion of what Bryce was, certainly in the last half of the year?
Hey, Adam, good to see you. Happy New Year, buddy. Hope things are good with you, too. I am so excited for Bryce Young and the progress he's made, and Dave Canales and what they've been able to do, because when we talked after week 2 when he got benched, it felt like a done deal. It felt like he was going to get traded to the Dolphins or wherever to be Tua's backup and sort of figure out his NFL future. He took a seat on the bench. Andy Dalton played for a month or so, and then when Bryce got back out there, it felt like he learned whatever lesson he needed to learn. And you and I have talked about this before. Magically, his footwork was Alabama style. It wasn't year one Carolina style. And I was just going back and forth with a colleague of mine who said, hey, the only real defense he played was the Philadelphia Eagles. He should have beat the Philadelphia Eagles if Xavier Legette hadn't dropped that ball at the end of that game. They outplayed the best team in the NFC. So I think the way they finished against Atlanta, as you noted, a must-win game for the Falcons with their rookie quarterback, that says a ton to me. And it's refreshing to turn on a Panthers game and see Alabama Bryce and not year one Bryce, because I think that's what everyone expected. And I tweeted out some video today, but also Mike Sando, the Athletic, had this in his Monday morning column. The last 9 games, Bryce has outplayed C.J. Stroud. And the whole talking point over the summer and even last year was Panthers owner probably wonders why they took the wrong quarterback. Maybe they didn't. Maybe they got their guy, and it's the infrastructure you put around that young quarterback that helps that young quarterback grow. So credit to Bryce, credit to Dave Canales, credit to Dan Morgan. Let's go.
All right, Ryan Wilson is joining us here on the Adam Gold Show. It was a pretty good impersonation of Pete Prisco.
Thank you.
I think that you just did. Here's the thing about, because you brought up CJ, and because, man, I was dealing with it last year, because I was screaming going into the draft, if it were close between the two players in terms of playing the position, then it would have been a no-brainer to take Stroud, because he has all of the historical measurables. He's got the size, the obvious arm, all of that. And clearly, C.J. Stroud is a very good quarterback. I am not saying it anything other than that. But I still believe that there was something in Bryce that caused more people than not to think that Bryce was the number one pick. And yeah, it matters to put a better offensive line in front of him. And clearly their offensive line was improved, certainly in the middle. And just a couple of more weapons. It wasn't great. I mean, Adam Thielen missed some time. Xavier Legette had some drops, but he was better than basically everybody not named Adam Thielen last year. Then you add Jalen Coker. David Moore was a good, reliable player.
Sanders.
He missed some time too. But, yeah, it looks like they've got 4 or 5 at least viable options for him to throw to, and the coaching is better. Amazing how all of that matters.
Right, and I think that's the takeaway. The other takeaway, and this is more media fan-driven, is that, sometimes we have to take a deep breath and let these young players develop at the pace that maybe is not as fast as we want it. And looking back, the Frank Reich situation was the wrong situation for Bryce. They had too many cooks in the kitchen. And Bryce, I talked to folks that were on that staff that said he was a little stubborn at times, and that I get it. The other thing, Bryce had never lost, and it's sometimes tough to go when you play at the high school level and the college level, and to get thrown into a situation that was Carolina last year. It probably feels like you're on a different planet playing a different sport. Whereas CJ, and again, not to take anything away from CJ, he went to a perfect landing spot, even though the Houston Texans were historically bad the previous few years. D'Amico Ryans, Bobby Sloak, the play caller, the offensive line was okay, but they found ways to make plays with the playmakers they had. Tank Dell had a big rookie season. But as you noted, Adam Thielen looks like he's 10 years younger, the way he's played over the second half of the season. It has been night and day. And the Jonathon Brooks situation is terrible and demoralizing, and it's unfortunate, but Chuba Hubbard's played really well. And I think the biggest thing, Adam, the offensive line has sort of figured it out a little bit.
Mm-hmm.
And that's huge because we were talking about Ike Ekwonu and was he going to have to move inside? Are they going to have to draft another tackle? Again, sometimes patience pays off, coaching pays off, and it's all come together. Now the issue, and you'll be talking about this for the next few months, the expectations going into next year.
Well, I brought it up yesterday. Like, I think at best they're 2 years away from being legitimately good, and that's if everything goes well. 2 years from now, they could be really good. But next year, based on the quality of the teams in the division, it's a winnable division for them next year. What do they do with this offseason? Obviously, they have some cap room. I also went on a little bit of a rant saying, don't go out and buy a wide receiver this offseason. Help build your defense with your available cap room and get better on that side of the ball. What'd they give up? 6 billion points this year. They set a record for points allowed this year or something silly like that. Their defense was a colander. Real quick, because the draft is coming up and they will pick 8th, and this is one of your many areas of expertise. At 8, Ryan Wilson, who do you think is likely to be there?
So we did a mock draft on the With the First Pick podcast yesterday, and I had him taking an edge rusher, to your point, Michael Williams out of Georgia. If Abdul Carter's there out of Penn State, that's also another option. There's so many dudes along the defensive line
right,
that'll be available in the top 10. So if you're not looking for offensive line, I'm not sure necessarily they are, or maybe you don't want to draft the Tedrow McMillan, the wide receiver out of Arizona, who reminds some NFL folks of Drake London, then edge rush feels like a safe spot to go. And there are dudes out there that are 260 that can get after it from day one, and get Derrick Brown back, and you go from there. Because I think your point is an important one. You can, unless you're the Cincinnati Bengals, and even if you are the Cincinnati Bengals and scoring 40 points a game, you can still miss the playoffs if your defense stinks. So let's get that shored up, help Bryce out. And this wide receiver class isn't as deep as last year's, Adam, but there are dudes, and the name you mentioned, Jalen Coker out of Holy Cross, fun story. You can find guys rounds 2 through 7 in free agency if you keep looking.
Or, a undrafted free agent, Adam Thielen and Jalen Coker. I mean, there can't be a team with 2 better undrafted free agent wide receivers than those 2. For me, and I think you and I have talked about this, I think the best player in the draft is Travis Hunter. I would take him first if I had the first pick. I would play him exclusively at cornerback and spot him at wide receiver, which I think smart NFL teams will do. But he does kind of tick both boxes for teams that are lucky enough to get him. How far do you think Travis Hunter falls in this draft?
No lower than 3, and the Giants are 3 right now. They desperately need a quarterback, and the question is, are the Titans taking a quarterback at 1? They probably should.
Yeah.
Would Shedeur Sanders or Cam Ward play in Cleveland with the second pick? I don't know. So maybe one of those 2 teams decides to trade down, and the team that trades up gets a quarterback, and Travis slips a little bit. If you told me he got outside the top 5 and there's no injury history or any off-field concerns, and I've heard of neither, I don't know what would have had to have happened, because there are only 2 quarterbacks in this draft going in the first round. And after that, Travis Hunter, to your point, is the best player. He's the best player, period. It's just that the teams at the top need QBs. So,
like you and I have had these discussions as well. There's no way I would take a quarterback with either of the first 2 picks. I would trade out. I would absolutely trade out. I think, not that those guys can't be good NFL quarterbacks. I think they are a roll of the dice. And like most quarterbacks kind of are anyway, but I think they're both a roll of the dice. Anyway, let me get to a couple of other things, and then maybe we'll talk some games. Should I read into the fact that Jerry Jones denied Mike McCarthy permission to speak to the Bears about their head coaching vacancy as a sign that he's going to be back in Dallas? Because that's the way I'm looking at it now.
I would never encourage anyone to try to get into the mind of Jerry Jones. That's a dangerous place to be, Adam. Look, man, it's 5 days away from Mike McCarthy's contract being up anyway. Right. Just give him the contract, or don't be a jerk about it. I don't know what the answer is. I would bring Mike McCarthy back. This guy won 7 games with this team with a depleted roster. The previous 3 years, they won 12 games each year. The issue is the playoffs. They stink. And that's a legitimate concern, whatever. But if you don't want Mike McCarthy, let him interview for the job. If you don't think he's a big deal, let him go to a conference rival. If you want him back, just pay him. But he has a history, Jerry Jones. He waited on Dak. He waited on CD. He's waited on Micah Parsons, and he's had to overpay all those guys. So I would imagine this will be no different.
Yeah, but he won't have to overpay Mike McCarthy for. So at least he'll get this one right. It's always funny to me for people who are like, if you're brand new to being an NFL owner or an owner of any sport, because it's the same market dynamic in every single sport. Once you become a free agent and where anybody can sign you, or the longer you wait, the numbers always go up. Unless you're banking on the production going down, in which case, why do you want that player? It's undefeated. The longer you wait, the more you pay. I don't understand why Jerry did that. Of course, the salary cap hit is probably about the same either way, based on how these things are structured. One other thing about the cap that popped into my head. Does anybody really believe that Deshaun Watson is ever going to take another snap for the Browns? I know they restructured the deal to make it so down the road they can spread the dead cap hit out. But, I mean, he's never going to take a snap again, right?
You would think not, but the Browns continue to surprise and amaze.
Good point.
So, yeah. Look, man, so just Jameis Winston isn't the answer, but every other quarterback that's played not named Deshaun Watson in the last 2 years has been an improvement, except for maybe DTR down the stretch there. But Joe Flacco literally got off his couch to take that team to the playoffs the last month of last season. And Jameis did the Jameis Flash thing, and then he sort of soured. But it's the worst contract in recent NFL history.
Ever. Never been a worse contract than that.
I didn't want to be hyperbolic about it, but you're probably right. And then the question goes back to what we talked about a moment ago. At 2, if you're the Browns, you need a quarterback. Now you got to convince one of these guys, Cam or Shador, that Cleveland has changed their stripes, which is, a hard sell, it feels like.
And they have no stripes, so there's no stripes to change. Oh, no, they're down the middle of the helmet. Ryan Wilson, CBSSports.com, with the First Pick podcast with Rick Spielman. So Steelers and Ravens play. Steelers have lost 4 in a row. So I have 2 questions about this game, or at least game adjacent, and then we'll let you go. A, are the Steelers really open to trading Mike Tomlin? Because I'll be a Jets fan again if they want to trade Mike Tomlin to the Jets.
I got this question yesterday, if the Bears should ask about Mike Tomlin, and I laughed. I'm a Steelers fan, and Steelers fans get angry because the Steelers haven't won a playoff game since 2016.
Right.
But the fact that this man hasn't had a losing record, and that includes a year with Mason Rudolph and Duck Hodges, and then Mason Rudolph and Kenny Pickett, that alone should get him into the Hall of Fame. And the other thing is this: I'll ask 2 things, and I'll end with asking you a question. If I'm the Bears and they call me and I'm the Steelers, I want Caleb Williams, Rome Odunze, Montez Sweat, and 4 first-round picks. And then I'll answer the call. And the second question is this, Adam. If Mike Tomlin is so bad, if you're a Steelers fan, the over-under is 10 minutes. That's how long he'll be unemployed. You take the over, the under if he gets fired by the Steelers.
Under.
Right,
There would be teams firing their coaches to hire Mike Tomlin. And you know this. The reason they haven't won a playoff game, and it might be the same now, is that they really haven't had a good quarterback. Even at the end of Ben Roethlisberger, by the time they got to this point, he was broken, hobbling around on a broken foot, and considering how big he was, that couldn't have been fun for him. The other adjacent question about this game, if I was asking you right now to predict, is it Josh Allen or Lamar Jackson? Who's going to win the MVP?
I'm going to take the easy road out. Hopefully they split it, because both these guys have been so awesome. They have been absolutely amazing. I think the last time it was split was Peyton Manning and Steve McNair, if I recall correctly. Lamar's been spectacular, but so is Josh. And here's something I was thinking about too, Adam, not to take up too much time, but if you switch these guys, change their teams, they're basically probably the same records, right?
I would think, yeah.
Yeah.
I would think
so. It's hard. They've both been awesome. I don't want to get in the middle of that Hatfield and McCoy altercation. So I'm going to split the vote.
I say I'm not even sure how to parse it, because I think the Bills have less around Josh than the Ravens have around Lamar. But if that's true, it's only by a little, right?
Right.
I mean, we have seen just 2 unbelievable seasons. A season much like you're having, Ryan Wilson. Appreciate your time at Ryan Wilson, CBS, with the First Pick podcast. Appreciate your time, man. I'll talk to you down the road.
Have a good one, Adam.
You too.